Well, I absolutely did not expect that. Day one of the conference, first afternoon of founder studies, and we had Ruth Kastner, who's the author of the book, The Transactional Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics. Now, this just blew my mind. So, for those of you that have any interest in quantum physics, quantum mechanics, you're probably familiar with the Schrodinger's cat. And, without getting into too complex, cat in a box, let's say there's a mechanism which at some certain point gets triggered, which would kill the cat. But until we open the box, we don't know whether the cat is dead or alive. So I think a very simplistic explanation of quantum mechanics then basically says that the cat sits in superposition, essentially is both. It's both. And this is an attempt to explain how molecules operate at small, very, very small levels. Now, one of the problems with quantum mechanics, current theories around quantum mechanics, is referred to as the measurement problem. So when conducting experiments, they are able to measure the probabilities of the potential outcomes. However, in the theory, there's no way of being able to determine or measure those outcomes. And this is considered a major problem in quantum physics. And Ruth has her theory essentially solves this problem. And what it refers to, the transactional approach. And I guess if we talk about in the past in Newtonian physics, it's very much an interactional. So an object operates independently, hits another object, and that causes a consequence or a result. Prior to that, it's more self-actional, where the only thing that exists is a human being, and that force is the sole thing that determines the outcomes in reality. But of course, we know how bankrupt that is. We've lived more in an interactional world, but what we're starting to see is that probably doesn't really reflect things. And in fact, what typically we find is that, or the distinction she makes, is that you cannot really make any distinction between the critter in the environment or the creature in the environment. They exist in reciprocal and consequential exchange. So solving this problem, how does it kind of, and keep in mind, man, most of this talk was way over my head, right? So I'm going to try to do the best that I can to explain it. But essentially, the proposition of the theory is that there's this quantum substrata which exists, you might say, below the level of space and time. And what can happen is from one molecule from the perspective of potentially, or in this quantum substrata, essentially reaches out and offers to another particle. And that particle will then respond in kind. And when the offer wave and the response wave meet and there's a handshake, it's the transaction between those two molecules that will then determine the probability of the outcome. Now, by having the quantum substrata, firstly, it gets rid of any need for things like dark matter. Currently a lot of scientists are kind of trying to determine the fabric that underlies space-time. So this theory does not require it. Also, a couple other things that sometimes people associate with quantum mechanics. So potentially also that we live in a world of infinite dimensions, and that all possibilities exist somewhere in another dimension. So this really also gets rid of the many worlds theory as well. And then the other thing, which we often see in New Age thinking, sometimes New Age thinking is kind of hijacked quantum mechanics a little bit, because there's been this posture that it's the observer. We hear a lot of this in manifestation, and that's what I'm talking about with the New Age stuff, right? It's the observer which in some way or form, shape, determines the outcome. But of course, we know the problems with that is like who becomes the observer, right? Where was I going? So essentially this theory solves a lot of the problems that currently exist with quantum mechanics theory. So, man, this was just absolutely mind-blowing to me. And in fact, probably the last thing I'll share was just, she also referenced an indigenous people that live out of South America, I think in Peru, called the Amara people, who have a worldview that and subsequently language and gestures that fits with this. And their worldview, get this, is that the past is what's actually in front of them. And their reasoning behind that is because The past is known. The past can be seen, whereas the future is unknown and it can't be seen. So from their worldview, the past is actually behind us. And what it also, I've got someone, can you come back, please? In 20 minutes or something like that. Okay. Thank you. Turned out service. Their worldview then talks, in Western world, we often charge, into the future, sometimes without doing a lot of accurate thinking, whereas their worldview has them be a lot more cautious about the decisions and the choices they make, and they also probably place a little bit more value on things like past and traditions and beliefs and things like that. Not invalidating the future, but just being more careful about it because it's so more unknown. So I think that's probably where I'll stop for the time being. But yeah, look, just mind-blowing afternoon. And I had no idea we were going to be talking with, this top intellect, and just an utter and absolute privilege. So, I didn't realize coming to a professional influence conference where we kind of, studying the philosophy of transactionalism would have us deal with quantum physics. And when we do, I'm always a little bit skeptical because I know how bastardized quantum mechanics has been by a lot of new age thinkers, you might say. So, incredible. So that's today. That's this afternoon. We're going to be going to dinner soon. So I'll keep you guys updated with what else is happening. But let me know if this kind of stuff interests you. All right. It's something that certainly interests me. But thanks, guys. Speak to you later.